now. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another one of our In Conversation series of broadcasts here on TravelMole YouTube channel. I'm delighted this morning to have two gentlemen who are going to represent the vast majority of the travel industry in a new organisation called TIA, and that is Derek Moore and Danny Callaghan. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
Derek, TIA, tell me, how did it come about? What's the purpose of it?
Okay. Well, it came about quite informally, actually. I noticed that Danny had been writing quite strong letters to the trades and stating its position about what the government should do. And I suggested to a couple of colleagues at ATA we should have a chat with LATA, because we seem to have similar views and similar ideas as to where the industry and the country should be going. So we had a chat. It was very informal. We liked what we heard from each other, and we invited a couple of other people to join. So ATA, the African Travel Trade Association, and PATA came on board. So we had LATA, ATA, and PATA. There must be a joke in there somewhere. And we found in the end about nine of us wanted to get together, and it began really as a peer-to-peer group discussing issues with the industry, and that's really how it started.
Okay, now Danny, it started. You're all joining hands. You're all well, not joining hands because we're in a lockdown, but virtually holding hands. Virtually holding hands and all coming together, all these associations, and I believe there's 9 of them. But what are you trying to do?
Well, I guess let's go back to what brought us together. The things that I was writing about was my big concern was about how we get travel restarted, and I was always concerned. I'll speak for LATA momentarily, but my concern was that there were lots of things that the industry was asking for, things like financial support and things around maybe pre-departure testing and all sorts of things that are kind of essential to get tourism restarted and support the industry. But I think my concern was that the shopping list approach of bundling these all up together it makes it slightly more difficult. I think it's easier for somebody to say no to something like pre-departure testing, which is essential for travel, if you wrap it up with something that we would love, which is financial support, but which is easy to turn down. So my view was always that we should focus on sort of key issues one at a time, even if they're done concurrently. You should only ask for one thing at anyone in any one sort of piece of work. So our goal is just to focus on that. So as a group, we came together and we sort of chatted around the principles of the things that we would like, which are things like financial support, but the things we absolutely need are to be able to restart trading. And I think those are the things that we focus on, is the absolute must-haves.
I think it's worth just putting in there. It's worth pointing out that we all agreed that if you ask government for money, they suddenly go deaf and they're not really interested. Hence, as Danny says, we stayed away from any discussion about money to save the industry and concentrated instead on could be done to ease travel back into existence again.
Yeah, because there's no question the government have ploughed billions and billions into supporting businesses, and that's a great thing, because it's let us get as far as we are. But it's then easy for them to say, we can't do sector specific activity because we're supporting them through existing measures. So we decided just to try and focus on sort of key aspects to get things moving again, which mitigates the need for support.
But Derek, surely the only thing that's going to get us moving again is the entire world being vaccinated. That's it. End of.
Well, I guess it's the simple version, but in fact, I mean, we don't have to wait until every last person is vaccinated. For a start, there's discussion about vaccination passports, which may be needed. There are some countries that probably are safe to go to and others that aren't. As the months go on, that will become clearer. So I don't think it's quite as clear cut as no travel until there's nobody who's got the virus.
So you want the government to take various actions to get travel back as quickly as possible. I understand that. How do you intend to persuade the government to do that, Danny?
Well, I think the 2 key things that we're looking for are, we'd like the FCDO to take an informational only role in providing COVID information, whereas they take an advisory role at the moment. So we want them to sort of pull back from that, and we want people to be able to access the UK, without a quarantine. Now, not today. I think we have to appreciate that here and now today, the UK has a massive problem. We have hospitals full of people with COVID, and there's no suggestion that tourism is the right thing for today. But I think we have to get to a point. We have to have a roadmap to a point where we can see how inbound and outbound tourism can restart. And I think the inbound quarantine point is really important, because we can't have inbound UK tourism without that being lifted, and without inbound tourism we can't have outbound tourism, because we can't expect airlines to run single direction flights and that sort of stuff. So those are the two things we're focusing on. We're a very new organisation. We're all small organisations that are members of it. Certainly from LATA's point of view, we're not really used to working with governments and that sort of stuff. The closest we get is we have a great relationship with the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Latin America. So we're finding our way a little bit. But our initial plan is we're joining the Future of Aviation group, which is linked to the APPG for aviation. And I'm sure you know about that. That's a group of MPs who are keen to push the message about travel, tourism and aviation, about its role in the British economy, its role in global Britain, post-Brexit Britain, and pushing that message through to governments. And I think, for us, that's a key and it's about how we can contribute to the discussions they're having. We're not looking to roll in with a list of demands. What we're looking to do is contribute to planning and to the strategies around reopening tourism. So it's we're looking for ways to contribute as a diverse membership.
So Derek, you're really looking towards contribution rather than really trying to change anybody's mind, because to be quite frank, in the last 9 months, lots of people, including large heads of aviation groups, have tried to persuade the government to do certain things which they haven't done. It's fallen on deaf ears. The new TIA could argue till it's blue in the face and it's not going to get anywhere. So are you really seeking an advisory role?
In a sense, I think one point I want to pick up on from what Danny was saying is we realised pretty early on that the key to getting any progress at all is to work with, talk to and foster contacts with MPs. And there are a number of MPs who are interested in travel, who understand it, and have expressed an interest in helping the industry. And if we can talk to them and give them advice as to what we need and how it can be done, bearing in mind that some MPs clearly don't understand the travel industry or how it works, then that is the key to at least trying to move things forward. You're right, it's an uphill battle. It doesn't mean we shouldn't try and fight it.
No, it doesn't. But do you think that, for example, if we were now in a agricultural group and we're all farmers and we're all upset about what's going on, by now we'd have surrounded Parliament with tractors and had sheep running around the whole of London, and they tend to get more attention and more action than the travel industry does. We behave, or the industry behaves, in a very conservative, with a small c way, and all we want to do is whisper in corridors. Do you think there's time for a slightly more militant action?
There is an argument for borrowing some sheep and buying some tractors, but otherwise, I think it's really just a case of if enough people talk enough to the right people, gradually things will eventually change, but it's going to be slow and it's going to be uphill.
Yeah, we're trying to complement the work that's going on already. We're not saying, IATA have been talking to government, ABTA have been talking to government, this person has been talking to government, they haven't got anywhere. We want to add to the work that's ongoing. These guys have been doing great work over the last year, and we want to contribute to it. And as individual small organisations, it's difficult for us to get an in. But I think, by working together, we feel we can do that. And remember, we all have very little resources, these small organisations like us. LATA is myself and 2 colleagues. Caribbean Tourism Organisation is 2 people, I believe. So, as individual organisations, we just don't have the capacity to play our part in bringing the agenda forward. But collectively, we just aim to contribute to the work that's going on. I think that's really important for us. to have a voice.
Well, you say great work. You say great work.
Sorry, go ahead, Graham.
You say great work is going on. I mean, I see no evidence of it. I mean, it's an absolute shower at the moment. Is that people really don't know what's going on? They still no clarification on the hotel issue. We shut down our borders late, etc., etc. We still don't know about test and trace. I mean, the performance has been abysmal. So I'm not sure about great work. The work's got to be improved, hasn't it?
Well, I think the performance has probably been poorer on the government side than on the industry side. But I think, to go back to your analogy about farmers, I think that, it's easy for farmers because farmers deal with one government department. So, we're in a situation where we've got, Department for Health, Home Office, Foreign Office, Department for Transport, Cabinet Office, Public Health England. Pretty much anybody that has anything to do with government has a part to play in this current crisis, and I think that's what's made it so difficult to get any traction. I think what we feel is that certainly we're working with the likes of the Future of Aviation Group, getting in at grassroots backbench MPs where we can just explain how the industry works and what the implications are for their constituents potentially, is the way to do it, because I think there's no question that writing letters to Grant Shapps or Dominic Raab is one of the 100 million letters they get every day, I imagine, and that these guys are super busy. But I think going through the trying to get the weight of support in the backbench MPs is something that we can really contribute to, and I think to help with the sort of the longer term argument.
I don't think that, despite the fact it's going to be difficult to achieve the sort of things the industry needs, that's not a reason for not fighting and not trying to do something.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think my point is that is whispering in corridors enough action. Should not TIA be looking and trying to get people to do something that actually grabs the headlines? It grabs, it's on the front page of the newspapers, that grabs people's attention to the plight of the inbound and outbound, and also to the fact that inbound tourism will be a massive contribution to revitalising the economy.
I think the government has made it fairly clear at times that they regard the travel industry, frankly, as expendable. It's just, it's a shame because of COVID-19 that the industry is going to be decimated, but hey, that's the way things go. It's almost their approach. And that's something we have to fight.
And hence my point about being more radical about what potentially the TIA could do, rather than just write and talk to MPs.
I think we're fairly flexible on what we do. I mean, we're all very small organisations. My background prior to LATA is working in SME, so I've always been used to, being able to act on decisions very quickly and not having to worry too much about sort of established protocols, if you like. And I think maybe that will bear fruit. I think probably today isn't the right day to be sort of organising a march on Downing Street, because I think that's probably illegal and not good for social distancing. But I guess maybe the fact that we're not so embedded politically as some of the more established larger groups, maybe would give us an advantage at some point. I don't quite know what that might look like, but if TravelMole wants to sponsor a march on Parliament, we can talk to you.
Sorry, rightly or wrongly, I think we believe that working with MPs eventually will work, whereas going against them, the political establishment is much bigger than most of the bodies who are fighting in travel right now. If you try and go up against them, you'll get nowhere. If we can show them a way in which they can help us, then it's just a case of hoping that the powers of persuasion will work.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I think you could quote recent examples where people have come up against the government, gone to the public, like the school meals thing, the free meals with Marcus Rashford. His was refused. He went against the government. He got a phone call with the Prime Minister, and hey presto, the thing has changed. Now, I'm not expecting that to change with travel policies. A little bit more involved in that. But my point is that confrontation was undertaken, and the people that were confronting actually won the case. Do you think Derek, that one of the issues, and going forward, and hopefully, by this time next year, this type of conversation won't be necessary. But really, if you look forward and keeping the interest of the travel and tourism industry, both inbound and outbound, is that there is nobody at a cabinet level that actually is thumping the table on behalf of the travel industry. Never has been. And that's really the issue. I spoke to Josh Croft from UK Inbound, who I believe is in your alliance, about that very issue. I mean, I think there is somebody in the job of Minister of Tourism, but that knows a little bit about the travel industry, but seemingly has very little power. Do you think that's really the issue? Is that no one's thumping the table at a cabinet level on behalf of the travel industry?
Very much so. And I mean, if we can persuade those MPs, there's about 30 of them that have expressed a keen interest, and 80 MPs signed a letter to Boris the other day about the way the travel industry, the things that the travel industry is facing. If we could get a tourism minister with real power, that would be an enormous improvement. But at the moment, as you know, the tourism minister has to look after 2 or 3 other things as well. So until we get somebody at cabinet level who's fighting our corner, it is going to be very much an uphill struggle.
Danny, is the TIA going to be writing out, if you like, a manifesto or a schedule of events, some advice, or is it just when an MP or this group says, well, what should we do next? They come to someone from the alliance and you put forward your opinions and your ideas? Or are you going to come up with a, if you like, a plan, the way that we should be coming out of this?
Yes, absolutely. Our intention is to do that, and it's a very early stage. The organisation came together very organically, so we are, in very early stages. As I say, most of us don't have experience of dealing with government, so I think right here and now today we are investigating how we contribute, and then from the back of that we will start to contribute. So we've been in talks, as I said, with the Future of Aviation Group. Derek and I had a meeting with the DCMS yesterday, and we're just trying to learn where we can contribute, and then we'll start to build a strategy. We already have sort of a loose strategy coming together. We meet at least every 2 weeks just to work on what we're going to do. We're keen to make positive, rapid action. We don't have meetings that are meetings for the sake of it. Each meeting has outcomes and actions, and 2 weeks later we've done whatever it is we said we're going to do. So we're doing our best to work as quickly as possible, but at the moment it's very much a fact-finding mission on where we can pitch in. But if within a week we're told we could do X, Y, and Z, then we'll just get on and we'll do it. So but we're trying to be led in some ways by the people who can best use what we can provide, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, if that makes sense.
I don't think the TIA is pretending that this is suddenly we are the one organisation that can sort all this. We want to work collaboratively with other travel industry bodies, because the more we work together, the stronger we are.
Yes, indeed. Final question, and it's really a bit of a finger in the air exercise, is when do you think, Derek and Danny, that I, for example, will be able to travel freely, say to go to Brazil or to go to Greece on a walking holiday? When's your best guess, Derek?
Well, certainly not before the summer, and it's looking more and more likely that even the summer will be a sort of 50-50 possibility. 2022, I think, is probably going to be all right, but the trouble with any roadmap, frankly, is, and this is what the government faces, of course, is that events just continually change and move the goalposts, so it's almost impossible to predict. But I would think by 2022 we will be in a better position than we are in 2021. One of the things the government doesn't seem to understand is if they say, okay, from next week we'll, for example, lift the quarantine regulations, I think they think then that instantly Jet2 will be flying all over the place and tour operators will have their books full. It takes at least 3 months to gear up the travel industry if the government gives any sort of go-ahead that we can do so. And that colours, my answer a little bit. So I would say late summer, possibly a little bit. 2022, I would think is a good chance.
And Danny, what are your members budgeting for? Any travel this year?
Well, I have a tour operator webinar later on this afternoon, so that might answer the question a little bit more completely for me. I think they're still hopeful. We've been doing roundtables with members, here in the UK, and obviously we have a lot of members in Latin America. I think the frustration, my personal frustration, is that we've done a lot of work with tourist boards in Latin America over the last probably 6 or 7 months. And they've been explaining to us the protocols they've put in place and how they plan to restart tourism. And it's clear that they really understand the value of tourism. They understand how tourism can be safely carried out in a world with COVID, because we're in a world with COVID, and that's going to be forever, let's face it. So they've really understood it, and they've really thought it through, and they've thought through how these things can happen. So, notwithstanding the fact that some of them have their borders closed because they still have problems with infections, they are essentially ready for tourism to restart safely. And my concern is that, it's going to be government policy and government's reluctance to allow people to travel because they're scared of what could happen. They're scared of being criticised if they open up tourism and rates start to climb again. So my big concern is around when that might change, and that I think is the hardest thing to really understand. There's obviously a pent-up demand for travel. We know that, there are good inquiries. We know that there's this phrase revenge travel, where people are desperate to travel to get their own back on COVID. There's been a surge of inquiries from the 50 pluses off the back of the sort of the vaccination plan. So there's a lot of demand. There is, my belief is there's the ability for it to take place safely, but it's just so hard to understand which way government policy is going to go. So, your guess really is as good as mine. But I would hope, that later this year we'd be seeing people going to Latin America.
Good. Gentlemen, I wish you the very, very best of luck in your endeavours with the government, radical or not. I hope that they're successful. And I look forward to speaking to you in a couple of months' time when you've got your agenda together, you've got your schedules together, and we can see what progress has been made, because hopefully in a couple of months' time, the outlook in the world and the travel world will be a lot cheerier than it is now.
Let's hope so. Thank you so much for having us.
No problem. Thank you.